The year is 1189. England is a kingdom on a knife's edge. After decades of strife under his father, Henry II, a new king, Richard the Lionheart, has just ascended the throne. But his gaze is not fixed on his new realm. In the late 12th century, all of Christendom, including England, burned with a zealous crusader fever. This was no mere flicker of piety. It was a holy fire, stoked by the shocking news that had spread like wildfire across Europe. Jerusalem had fallen to the armies of Saladin. A wave of religious fervor was sweeping across the nation, calling men from every walk of life to take up arms and reclaim the holy city. To lead this monumental effort, the newly crowned King Richard I had taken the cross himself, even before his coronation. It was a powerful public vow to lead a great army east. For Richard, a renowned warrior, this was the ultimate calling, a chance to etch his name into legend as a defender of the faith. His commitment galvanized the nobility and common folk alike, turning the crusade into the single most important political and spiritual project of the age. The entire machinery of the state was now geared towards one single epic goal: reclaiming the Holy Land. But as the call to crusade echoed from every pulpit, a darker, more insidious message began to take root. Priests and preachers, eager to fuel the crusading fire, warned their congregations that the enemies of Christ weren't just in far-off Jerusalem. They painted a picture of a spiritual war that had to be fought on all fronts, both abroad and at home. They were here at home, living amongst them. This dangerous rhetoric began to single out England's Jewish population, casting them as an internal enemy, an obstacle on the path to divine victory. For over a century, since the Norman conquest, Jewish families had lived in England. They were an established, integral part of the urban landscape. As money lending was forbidden to Christians, they played a vital, if often resented, role in the economy, providing the capital that financed the construction of castles and cathedrals. They were physicians, scholars, and merchants, contributing to the life of their cities for generations. They had built communities and synagogues in major towns like London, Lincoln, York, and Bury St Edmunds. But now, this crusading zeal, born of a desire to fight a foreign enemy, was turning inward. The holy fire was becoming an inferno of hate, casting a dangerous and deadly shadow over their very existence. For the Jews of England, the crusade was not a distant war, it was a threat gathering on their own doorsteps. In medieval England, a select group of Jewish lenders, rather than entire communities, became indispensable providers of credit. Operating under the direct oversight and protection of the crown, they were the financial engine for a society where capital was otherwise scarce. They financed the ambitions of powerful nobles, the expansion of great abbeys, and the development of burgeoning towns. Their lending was a crucial lubricant for the gears of the economy, supporting everything from international trade and the management of vast agricultural estates to the funding of occasional, but significant, royal projects. While not the sole drivers of economic life, their influence was profound and far-reaching. This unique and precarious prominence arose from a vacuum created by the Church, whose strict usury laws forbade Christians from lending money at interest. Into this space stepped Jewish financiers. Sanctioned by the king, who in turn taxed them heavily for the privilege, they provided the essential services of credit and meticulous record-keeping. Their work was undeniably useful, a vital component of the kingdom's financial architecture. Yet, as their role grew, so too did the undercurrents of bias and suspicion that swirled around them.
Their visible prosperity, often a direct result of this lending, became a focal point for a simmering and widespread resentment among the populace. This wealth, combined with their distinct faith and close-knit communities, further marked them as perpetual outsiders in a deeply homogeneous Christian society, a people apart.
Decades earlier, that dangerous resentment had already taken a monstrous form in Bury itself. It coalesced around the tragic story of Robert of Bury, a young Christian child whose unexplained death in 1181 became a spark in a tinderbox of prejudice. The tragedy was maliciously and falsely blamed on the town's Jewish residents, fabricating a ritual murder accusation. This baseless claim ignited a devastating wave of persecution, a dark precursor to the events that would later engulf Samson and the abbey. The tale became a local cult, preached as proof of Jewish wickedness, and it lingered for generations, poisoning minds long before the massacre. Then came Richard's coronation in 1189.
Jewish envoys brought loyal gifts, a long-standing custom, but were turned away and beaten.
Rumours spread that the king had ordered their deaths. Within hours, London's Jewish quarter was ablaze. Homes were looted, families murdered, and churches rang not with hymns, but with shouts for vengeance. Richard condemned the violence, but his departure for the Crusades left the message unclear.
Across England, mobs took his silence as permission.
By early 1190, violence spread through Lynn, Stamford, and Lincoln, the same cycle of rumour, riot, and ruin. And in Bury St Edmunds, tension simmered under Abbot Samson of Tottington, a powerful churchman, landlord, and debtor to Jewish lenders.
His abbey owed money, and removing the Jews offered both moral and financial relief.
The atmosphere grew poisonous, primed for blood. Then came Palm Sunday, March 18th, 1190. As townspeople packed into church, sermons of crusading glory filled the air.
When the services ended, the crowd spilled into the streets not toward prayer, but toward vengeance.
They stormed the Jewish quarter. Doors were smashed open, homes set ablaze. Men, women, and children were cut down or trapped inside the flames.
By nightfall, 57 Jews lay dead.
Only after the massacre did Abbot Samson act not to punish the killers, but to make it official. Within days, he expelled every surviving Jew from the liberty of St Edmund. Their homes and belongings were seized by the abbey. Their names were struck from local records, erased as if they had never lived there at all. But the terror didn't end in Bury.
Days later, in York, hundreds of Jews besieged in Clifford's Tower took their own lives rather than face the same fate.
For centuries, the victims of the 1190 Norwich massacre lay forgotten, their stories lost to the silence of history. Then in 2011, during a routine excavation for a new shopping centre, construction workers in Norwich unearthed a chilling discovery. Deep within a medieval well, a place not meant for burials, archaeologists uncovered the jumbled bones of at least 17 people, a disproportionate number of them children, 11 in total. The arrangement was haphazard, suggesting they were disposed of in haste. For years, the identity of these remains was a mystery. But groundbreaking DNA analysis, a technology unimaginable to their persecutors, provided a stunning and definitive answer. The genetic markers linked them directly to the Ashkenazi Jewish families who had been so brutally targeted and destroyed on that fateful day centuries before. The science reached across time, giving names back to the nameless. This physical evidence, reaching across nearly a millennium, serves as a stark and tangible reminder of a past that is never truly past. The Palm Sunday Massacre teaches us a timeless and terrible lesson, one that echoes through the ages with chilling relevance, that the final bloody act of violence never truly begins with the sword, the fire, or the mob. It is merely the conclusion to a story that began much, much earlier.
It begins with stories. It starts with the poison of hateful rumours, of blood libel, preached from pulpits and whispered in marketplaces until fear turns to fury. It grows with lies recorded as fact in official ledgers, where prejudice is given the stamp of authority and dehumanization becomes policy. And it culminates in the calculated, deafening silence from those in power, the kings, the bishops, the sheriffs, who possess the influence to intervene but consciously choose to look away, allowing the seeds of hatred to blossom into atrocity.
57 lives were taken that day in Bury St Edmunds, but their memory endures in chronicles, in bones, and in the warning history still gives us.
Hatred preached in holy places never stays within their walls.